This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
This war stops now.
End the war. Bring freedom to our people.
No more tricks. No more lies. Only truth.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight!
Welcome to the Stop and Listen podcast. I am your host, Jamie. Happy Sunday. It is beautiful here. The temperature is great, and I just got invited to a family barbecue today, so today is going to be a good day. RFK Jr. thinks that someone else might be running the White House. And the last episode,
with independent presidential candidate Robert.
Last episode, I played a video by Victor Davis Hansen, the historian, who swears that it's Obama.
So you're on 3 state ballots right now. How are you going to get on the others? I know you've started your own We the People party, and then there's a libertarian area where you could get on ballots in that way as well. What's the plan, and how quickly will it happen?
We're going to be announcing new states every week from now on. We're way ahead of our benchmarks. We will be on the ballot in 50 states and the District of Columbia. We have, I think we have 80,000 volunteers now on the ground. We're finding it extraordinarily easy, actually, to persuade people to sign, and we're ahead of all of our expectations.
What do you say to those who say you're just a spoiler? You were very critical of Ralph Nader back in 2000. You wrote a piece in the New York Times criticizing him and saying that he was going to hurt the environment by handing the election to George W. Bush. So what do you say now to those who say that you're in the same position?
I hope to be a spoiler for both.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ralph Nader, and I was 2000, I didn't get a vote in 2000. I wasn't old enough at that point. Wow, that was a long time ago. It doesn't feel like it. Like, that feels like just a couple years ago. But, like, yeah, Ralph Nader. Who the hell's Ralph Nader? I've heard the name. But, like, RFK Jr., that's a name. That has some pull. And he has something that Ralph Nader doesn't. Podcast, where he is going on tons of different podcasts. He's getting his viewpoint out to people who use social media.
Both President Trump and President Biden, I hope to take votes from each of them and win the election.
So you don't consider yourself a spoiler?
No, I'm not in here to
like, holy shit. Like, what kind of question is that? Oh, this is 8 minutes long. I thought this was a much shorter video.
do anything except to win.
President Biden was in an ice cream shop, and he was asked about Gaza, and he said, while eating ice cream, oh, there's going to be a ceasefire by the weekend. No, not by the weekend, by right after the weekend. And it's not the first time that we've heard him take on serious foreign policy issues in that kind of light environment. We don't hear from him a lot in terms of laying out his thinking on some of these big foreign policy issues. What do you think about his candidacy at this point?
I think he needs to come out of the White House and show Americans that he has the cognitive capacity to, and the mental acuity to handle this job at probably the most challenging time now, at least in recent American history. We're facing issues that are existential. We're involved in 2 wars. We have AI coming down, which is going to change everything, and there's enormous dangers in it. We need
Another thing, so like the Google Gemini AI scandal has been in the news. I haven't mentioned it here. It's just irrelevant to me. All this AI stuff, I mean, you've been talking about for years. Now we're starting to see it more and more, I suppose. And Elon Musk has been warning us. And it's like, just take the freaking batteries out of it and unplug it. Like, I don't, what is it doing? The talk of it just makes me want to live out in the woods. I don't want to live completely out in the woods. I mean, I need some crops. I want some woods. I want like 10 acres. I think would be fantastic. 10 acres gives me hunting ground, gives me some land to cultivate, and I mean really like 5 acres. I grew up on 5 acres. I think that'd be sufficient.
An economic crisis in this country where, the middle class is disappearing. It's been torpedoed. Where 57% of Americans can't put their hands on $1,000, where an entire generation of kids cannot buy a home. This is a crisis. We need a president who is thinking about these things, who's articulating the solution for the American people.
Do you not have confidence that he can serve?
I think he.
I mean, even is this like what journalism is now? If you're on a network, like, so you don't think he can serve? Huh? Well, you're a Democrat who left the party because they wouldn't allow you to challenge Biden. What say you? And he's articulating these things. He is talking about real issues even more so than Donald Trump is. Let's hear him out. Just because the issues are worth hearing regardless whose mouth they're coming out of. The issues need to be addressed regardless who addresses them. So let's hear what he has to say because he's actually saying something.
He needs to show Americans that he, a lot of these decisions are the products of complex and nuanced thought, and those thoughts need to be articulated to the American people in a way that we all support him. And I do not think that that's happening now. Our children's lives are dependent on that 3:00 a.m. call, and we need to know that we have a president who can wake up in the middle of the night and who is on his feet and thinking about those things. And I don't think.
I never thought about that. Imagine. Would they put Joe Biden, the amount of prep that they got to spend to put him out in public just in the middle of the day. Could you imagine? We give him a terror stack and something happens. And old Joe Biden. You could unthaw a frozen turkey probably quicker than you would get Joe Biden ready for a national emergency.
I think a lot of Americans have lost confidence in that.
So you're saying you don't think he's actually in charge?
You know what? I have a personal issue, which is my Secret Service protection. And I've known President Biden for 40 years, and he was a friend. With all of the issues about him, he was somebody who I thought at least had a kind of fundamental decency. And the fact, I just don't believe that he would have personally made the decision to deny me for Secret Service protection. I think somebody else is making those decisions.
You've been supportive of Israel's battle in Gaza. What about now? Would you be encouraging Israel to stop the bombing in Gaza, or do you support, as Bibi Netanyahu has called for this week, that they have to finish the job and eliminate Hamas?
Well, I think Israel, like every other nation, has a right to defend itself. I think we have to come down to the fact that Hamas has said we don't want to negotiate. We want only one thing, which is the annihilation of Israel, the extermination of Jews in this part of the world. So I think, I'm not a fan of Bibi Netanyahu's. I don't think most Israelis are. I think he would be voted out, but I think most Israelis are overwhelmed. Israel is today unified because they feel embattled. They feel that this is an existential risk to them. I think it's a complex issue and it's not easy, but we have to look at how do you avoid civilian deaths over the long term, not just immediately.
There's some discussion that Joe Biden, the president, could lose the vote in Michigan based on a stance that's very similar to the one that you just presented, because he could lose 200,000 Muslim voters in Michigan. Michigan's a state that you think, you just put on the list of one you might be able to win. Is that going to hurt you there?
I think, we need to make that distinction that Hamas is not the friend of the Palestinian people.
Yeah, make that argument.
Hamas is the abuser of the Palestinian people, and we need to point.
It doesn't seem that complex to be able to present that issue,
happening, which are horrific.
Why doesn't anyone talk to Muslims? I found a YouTube channel called God Logic 2.0, and then I guess on TikTok has like conference call. He talks to Muslims, and he persuades Muslims to his line of thinking, and tries anyway, and points out the errors in their faith. Okay, the bacon is done. Let's wrap this up. Yesterday I was had this plan. My church starts at 5, so I was going to go hit the gym, have a really good workout. About 3, I was going to head there. Got out of the house a little bit later, and I seen some of the young men in the white shirts, black pants and brown shoes from the Church of Latter-day Saints. And I live in an apartment, and I lost track of them because like first I drove past them, like, no. I'm gonna disciple these people, these young men. So I went and tracked them down, found them. They're like on the 3rd story. And I'm like, hey, you wanna talk? Come on, let's talk. And I just tried to persuade them that I wanted them on our team, and drop the Joseph Smith shenanigans, more or less. And then I barely got to work out at the gym for church, but I'm headed there soon. But the point is, speak to people, get them on your side. Whether you're going to a school board meeting and getting parents on your side that we should have cameras in the classroom, or it be, Mormons or LDS members or Muslims to say, hey, Jesus Christ is all we need, is the only way. Let's, come on, join us. Whatever it is, let's get together as a community. Make a difference. And you can only do so by speaking. There's going to be a ceasefire
by the weekend. No, not by the weekend, by right after the weekend. And it's not the first time that we've heard
is making those decisions.
You've been supportive of Israel's battle in Gaza.
I think most Israelis are overwhelmed. Israel is today unified because they feel embattled. They feel that this is an existential risk to them. I think it's a complex issue and it's not easy, but we have to look at how do you avoid civilian deaths over the long term, not just immediately.
There's some discussion that Joe Biden, the president, could lose the vote in Michigan based on a stance that's very similar to the one that you just presented, because he could lose 200,000 Muslim voters in Michigan. Michigan's a state that you think you just put on the list of one you might be able to win. Is that going to hurt you there?
I think, we need to make that distinction that Hamas is not the friend of the Palestinian people. Hamas is the abuser of the Palestinian people, and we need to point to Hamas, when we see civilian deaths happening, which are horrific and unacceptable, we need to understand that, that Hamas is at fault.
Let me ask you this. With regard to the border, there is a battle on Capitol Hill right now that many conservatives believe that you should secure the border before you send another dollar to help Ukraine. Do you agree with that?
I think the Ukraine war should be ended. And I think I wouldn't necessarily couple those issues, but I think the Ukraine war is a war of choice, that it's a war that's easily settled, and that we should not be spending any more money in Ukraine. We need that money here.
Right.
Do you believe that any person who has crossed the border and commits a crime should be deported from this country?
Of course. Of course they should be deported. And the major thing is to shut down the border, which we can do pretty much overnight. And that, through a combination of policy of reinstating the Migrant Protection Act, which requires people who are coming through with asylum claims that their case be adjudicated in Mexico, not the United States.
Like, I wonder if someone enters this country illegally, you know, and I mean, I don't know immigration laws and such, but like, if it's like, okay, you come in here, we catch you, you come back without authorization, you go to prison, or you can never come back. Like, this is, you came in illegally once, and that's the only mulligan you get. But like, I wonder, could you compel? I mean, since they're not citizens, can you like take DNA of people? Because like, they could, without proper documentation, how you know really keep track? But if it's, you know, hey, we got your DNA profile, which I mean obviously is a little scary. Our government collecting DNA. I don't know. Probably not a great idea. I'm probably not foreseeing all the bad ways that could turn out.
We should end the catch and release program and have a catch and return program at the border.
And build a wall?
We need the wall. We need a physical barrier, yes, a wall in the urban areas and places where migrants can disappear very quickly. And then we need other infrastructure, including monitoring, long-range cameras, lights, fences, and a lot of the other areas. You don't need to put a wall 2,200 miles from Brownsville, Texas to San Diego, but you need monitoring systems, and we had those in place in the Biden administration.
I like the idea of one big giant wall of America going from coast to coast, as he was just poo-pooing. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because you could have drones and sensors, and I mean, you probably could secure it to a point where you could see one thing, especially on the northern border, like having a border there, which I mean, I know that's a lot less unlikely. But like wildlife being able to go from point A to point B, one side to the other, and obviously they don't know that, and how putting a wall could disrupt that. Like in California, I believe, like one of the major highways in California basically created two different deer populations by the separation of this super busy highway. So, I mean, is that even a bad thing? I don't know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that dang old internet, man, you just go on there and point and click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
This war stops now.
End the war. Bring freedom to our people.
No. No more tricks. No more lies. Only truth.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight!